Welcome to the Global Reader. Today, we explore the life of Helen Keller, figure whose story is synonymous with overcoming seemingly insurmountable odds. Born in 1880, she was struck by an illness at 19 months old that left her both deaf and blind. Her world became one of total sensory deprivation, existenza marked by silence and impenetrable darkness. This narrative is not just about overcoming disability, it's about the extraordinary power of human connection and perception. Our English learning focus is on sensory vocabulary. We will use a rich tapestry of words such as palpable, resonant, acrid, and velvety to describe the world as Helen learned to perceive it, not through conventional senses, but through touch, smell, and the inner life of the mind. By the end, you will have mastered the language to describe the deepest experiences of feeling and apprehension. Chapter 1. The turbulence of an isolated child. Helen Keller's early childhood was one of frustration and fury. Trapped within her own body, unable to see the world or hear the voices of her family, she was cut off from language and communication. Her lack of sight and sound meant she possessed no tools to organize her thoughts. Her days were a series of unstructured, chaotic sensations. She would experience the world only through what she could touch and taste. The pungent aroma of the family's garden was a vivid anchor. The rough texture of burlap or the smooth coolness of glass were her only visual cues. She developed a fierce, almost feral temper. The smallest inability to communicate her needs would result in violent, inconsolable outbursts. Her inability to comprehend the world led to a feeling of acute isolation. The atmosphere in the Keller household was fraught with tension and sadness. Her parents, devastated and desperate, sought help. They needed a guide, a key to unlock the imprisoned mind of their daughter. That key arrived in 1887 in the person of Anne Sullivan. Anne Sullivan was a young woman, only 20 years old, who herself had overcome significant visual impairment. She understood the shadow, and she arrived with an unwavering resolve. She immediately recognized that the first step was not to teach letters, but to subdue the child's unruly temper and establish discipline. Anne later recounted that Helen's isolation was a tangible, almost palpable entity in the room. Chapter 2. The palpable dawn of language. Anne Sullivan's first act was to move Helen away from the soft indulgency of her family. She moved into a small annex on the property where she began her work. Her goal was to connect the abstract world of words to the concrete world of objects. Anne began by spelling words into Helen's hand using the manual alphabet. This required endless, often frustrating repetition. The word doll was spelled again and again into Helen's small palm, while the doll itself rested in the other. For weeks, Helen repeated the motions like a clever monkey, mimicking the tactile sensation without understanding the underlying concept. Breakthrough came one morning at the water pump. Anne led Helen to the pump and poured cool, refreshing water over one of her hands. Simultaneously, she spelled the word water into the other hand. The jolt of the liquid on her skin, the smooth flow of the stream, and their repeated tactile pattern finally clicked. Helen's mind was instantly ignited. The veil of ignorance was lifted. She realized that the finger movements were not just a game, they were a symbol for the splashing liquid. She instantly recognized that everything had a name. The discovery was electric. Helen immediately demanded the name of the pump, the ground, and Anne herself. The world, which had once been a blur of unarticulate sensations, suddenly had order. Sheno possessed the tools to move from instinct to intellect. Anne later remarked that the intensity of Helen's sudden desire for language was overwhelming. Chapter 3. The intense world of tactile perception. Once the barrier of language was broken, Helen's intellectual development was rapid and prodigious. She devoured the world through her fingertips, transforming her other senses into acute instruments of perception. Our sensory vocabulary becomes critical here. Touch, the most important sense. She would feel faces to understand emotions, the taut skin of anger, the soft creases of a smile. She could read Braille with an astonishing velocity, and she learned to distinguish people by the vibrations of their footsteps on the floor, a resonant clue to identity. Smell. Her sense of smell was extraordinarily keen. The acrid smell of smoke was a warning. The fragrant perfume of honeysuckle was a moment of sublime joy. The earthy scent of damp soil told her she was near the woods. Taste. She learned to distinguish the metallic tang of a coin from the sweetness of candy, identifying foods not only by their flavor, but by their texture. the silken texture of milk versus the grainy texture of bread. She even found ways to perceive sound. By placing her hand on the radio or the throat of a speaker, she could feel the tremulous vibrations of music or speech, translating those physical movements into an internal sense of rhythm and sound. She developed the palpable skill of lip reading by placing her fingers lightly on the lips and vocal cords of others. Her world was a continuous, intense series of tactile impressions. Helen went on to become a renowned student. She attended Radcliffe College, graduating in 1904. Her academic success was a testament to her unyielding fortitude and Anne's unwavering dedication. Chapter 4: The Global Resonance and Profound Legacy. Following her graduation, Helen Keller transformed from a successful student into a global activist and writer. Her work focused on political and social issues, advocating for women's suffrage, labor rights, and disability advocacy. Her public speeches were a powerful demonstration of her sensory world. She would describe a sunset not by its visual colors, but by the warm glow she felt on her skin, the gentle breeze that whispered against her ear, and the distinctive aroma of the evening air. Her descriptions were often more vivid than those of the seeing and hearing world, precisely because they relied on the depth of feeling rather than superficial sight. The adjectives we are focusing on help us to grasp the profound impact of her words. She spoke with a voice that was resonant with conviction. Her arguments were forceful and compelling. She described the plight of the working poor with a stark honesty that made their suffering palpable to her audience. She contended that true blindness was not physical, but spiritual, a refusal to see injustice. The bond between Helen and Anne Sullivan remained absolute until Anne's death in 1936. Anne was her voice, her eyes, and her constant companion. Their mutual devotion is one of the most moving stories of human interdependence. Helen Keller traveled the globe, meeting heads of state and inspiring millions. She embodied the conviction that disability was not a barrier to achievement, but a crucible for fortitude. She retired from public life in 1961 and died in 1968 at the age of 87. Conclusion: the tactile testament. Helen Keller's life is a magnificent testament to the human spirit's ability to transcend limitation. Her journey from a world of isolated darkness to of global light was fueled by the power of language. For English learners, this narrative has expanded a sensory vocabulary. You can now describe the world not only with visual words, but with a powerful lexicon of tactile, olfactory, smell, and gustatory taste adjectives. By incorporating words like acrid, velvety, resonant, and palpable into your descriptions, you can make your communication significantly more vivid and expressive. Helen Keller taught us that the most profound lessons are often found not in what we can see, but in what we can feel.